Okay, now the research also says that in the end, when somebody has certain trauma, one of the things that is helpful, and the research is consistently saying this does help, is therapy, often cognitive therapy. And so I want to talk about a technique coupled with an observation from my working with police officers for a long time. The technique, and you can borrow this or use it, especially if you're a young psychologist and you need to help somebody who's been in a shooting and is having some issues after a shooting. It may take a while for you to be in practice before you have your very own shooting stories. I was thinking about that. What do you tell somebody when a really, really good story to utilize involves a cop shooting somebody, but you've never talked with cops who shot anybody? So borrow mine. Had a woman come in, and she'd had the debriefing. She had shot somebody, and she was still finding that things weren't working for her. She was just having a lot of the symptoms that we talked about, which I won't repeat. And we were talking for a while, and there was something that was kind of eating me a little bit, and I was getting the impression that she was not telling me what she was thinking. And, you know, once a rapport was developed and once she was comfortable, I said, you know, I got to tell you, okay, actually, really what happened is I had been working with some smoking hypnosis and came to find with smoking hypnosis, if you're going to give somebody reasons to stop smoking when they're under an induction, you know what reasons work the best? The silliest gosh darn reasons. You know, you don't want to get lung cancer in 20 years. Yeah, no one does. You know, if you're a woman, it causes wrinkling. You will not have wrinkling. You know, and the silly reasons were getting me more effect with the smoking. Okay, put that aside. So now I'm talking to this woman and I say, you know, what is going on in your head? There's something that is going on in your head that you're just uncomfortable talking about. That's silly, if you will. Now, why silly? Because we've trained our people who've gone through trauma to be okay with saying, I felt like crap doing that. It scared the hell out of me doing that. I was angry doing. So standard things that a while back maybe you wouldn't talk about, I don't see the officers having problems with. But she thought for a second, said, yeah, I got two things that have been going through my mind, and I can't quite get them out of my mind. What are they? Okay, now follow the setup. And this is where the police culture is going to come in, because I got two guys who are probably going to understand this much more quickly. There was a barricaded call. The person was barricaded with a hostage in a house, and two officers of the same rank and experience show up at the scene. Actually, my client showed up second, of the same rank. Who's technically in charge until a supervisor gets there? The first one at the scene, correct? Okay. Not in a big way, but that's the person. You don't stomp on the other cop's work. So they get in the house, and they find that this person lets the hostage go, but they still have a large butcher knife. And they're trying to talk the person to dropping the butcher knife. Both of them have their guns drawn. And they kind of even know that they're violating departmental procedure, because this guy has made at least 3 runs at them with the knife. And again, if you're into policing, you know that basically within 21 feet, a gun and an edged weapon are equivalent. Even though you'd think, well, with a gun, you're good. Well, if you've ever had someone 5 feet away charge you while you're holding a gun, you'll get a shot off, but they'll get the knife in you. So they're very equivalent. But this guy had made a lot of runs, and they're not shooting, and they even know they should have shot. And they're trying to talk him out, and he's getting more and more agitated. And so he makes one more run and gets very close, and my female client puts one right in the heart, and he drops like a rock. So now she starts to have a thought. Because, well, I'm going to talk why we have those thoughts. I usually do it reverse. But so she has a thought. Mike was here first. I shot Mike's guy. I hope Mike doesn't think I'm rude. The other thought she had is, you know, this was right before she pulled this trigger. I do not want to kill anyone. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to kill anyone. I am not going to do what they taught me in the academy. I am not going to double tap. Who knows what double tapping is? Gary's used the term. We've used the term. And again, we're teaching students as well as experienced people. Who's a student? What's a double tap? 2 shots. Now, is that something a police officer just thinks to do?
I think it just happens.
No, it does not. And that's very important to understand. All police academies teach double taps. Boom, 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 boom. Right? Oh, yeah, Mark's nodding, but Dave has a blank look, like, you got it wrong, Dan. Now, is it just double tap? No, actually, now with the body armor, it's double tap and 1 to the head. So now it's boom, 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 okay? Because, you know, and so by the time, and this is where the public comes in. You shot the guy in the head, because headshots are very messy, okay? If you killed him with a heart shot, that'd be okay, but a messy headshot, ew, you shouldn't have done that. You should have been kinder. And not media versus police. So anyway, her thought was, I'm not going to double tap because I don't want to kill him. I'm just going to shoot him once. And she did. With a 9mm, very close, direct into the heart, and he died. So now she's going over and over that he shouldn't have died because I only shot him once. And I wonder if Mike thinks I was rude. In our society, we talked about police culture. We also, though, have to understand that, forget police culture in and of itself for a second. Let's just talk about culture. I don't think we realize how much our cultural training teaches us what to do in almost every situation. So, you know, if you're sitting at a table, you don't put your elbows on it. You don't have to think about that because you were taught not to put your elbows on the table. And if you're in certain parts of China, you burp after the meal to show that, you know, it was good. And you're in certain parts of Thailand, you don't ask for seconds because, you know, that's impolite, you weren't given enough. But in other parts of the world, you do ask for seconds because that shows you really like the food. So which of these cultural rules are right? None of them. None of them. What the cultural rules do, what this etiquette does, is it serves the purpose of letting you know what to do. It tells you what to do. So now the question becomes, what is the etiquette of a gunfight? Is the etiquette of a gunfight, you know, a double tap, 4 second guessing yourself questions, and then you're okay? There is no etiquette to a gunfight. There is no social skill tree. Do not teach our children. And by the way, Johnny, if you're ever in a gunfight on the street, you have to, no, but we'll tell them what to say. Yes?
The etiquette is to win.
No, I disagree with you. The goal is to win. The goal is to survive. But in terms of how to conduct yourself after you do survive, what's the etiquette? Well, you're supposed to survive, absolutely. But are you supposed to shoot first, or are you supposed to let Mike go first because he was there first? The goal is to survive, but that other stuff that I'm saying that went through her head, you don't talk about that beforehand. I mean, maybe that would be a good way to go. So, you know, guys, you need to survive a gunfight. So let me tell you in advance, if it comes down to it and you have to pull that trigger, you're right to do that, and there are no other rules. You don't have to worry about offending your partner, about department procedure, about paperwork, maybe, but see, that would be teaching the etiquette of a gunfight. But that's not really done. And because there's that absence of thought, that absence of etiquette, something's got to fill a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. So what ends up happening is thoughts will come in, or beliefs will come into the mind, such as, Mike, you know, I hope I wasn't rude. Why did he die? I only hit him once. And those thoughts don't get talked about. And this is the technique. I found now, because now I started probing, you know, other guys who've been shooting about the silly thoughts, and I call them silly thoughts because they don't get talked about because they're embarrassing. Flight 800, you know, which was huge on Long Island, obviously. But people know about Flight 800. I mean, it's a long time ago. What is the author name Nightfall, who wrote the book Nightfall? Really good book. No one remembers his name. Nelson DeMille, right? Right, Nelson DeMille. I worked with a lot of officers, and you know, what were their silly thoughts? There was some horrific stuff. But one officer, because he was too embarrassed to say it, he basically said, well, Samsonite suitcases really are built better. Now, I got to tell you, you're laughing, and I'll point out something else with the laughing that we just did. But at the time, that wasn't funny. And he was, so there he had a thought that was bothering him partly because he was floating around. It wasn't deep. It was right at the top of his head, and he couldn't tell anybody about it because it was silly. Silly. It wasn't offensive. It wasn't going to hurt anybody. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't getting him in trouble. That's why I came up with the term, the silly thought, because I didn't know what other vocabulary to have for it. So one of the things when you're doing cognitive therapy for people who have had a trauma, when the timing's right, coupled with other techniques, and of course with lots of creativity and thinking outside the box, you're going to see if you can find out what very silly thoughts they had. And I'm done.
To give you some more silly thoughts, I had a guy, I think I told you, was going through a shooting just recently. It happened to be in a Dunkin' Donuts. And his only thought that he had while he was shooting was, oh my God, no one's going to want to know why a cop's in a Dunkin' Donuts shop. I had another one who ended up shooting a woman who was coming at him with a knife. And he said she was a very ugly woman. And she's coming at me with a knife, and her pants are falling down. And I just thought if I shoot her, her pants are going to fall down. And he didn't want to see this woman with her pants down. So you get amazing results when you use this technique. Just ask him at the end of a debriefing, what was the silly thought you had? What was the really stupid kind of thing you thought? Because we all have them.